So we're in the second session of The Joy of Living. And this session is about what are the activities that bring you more of a sense of joy. And I noticed that as I came online and all these friendly faces, people, some of whom I know quite well, some of whom I know less well, I noticed that because I'd been sitting quietly before the Zoom started, I was able to just really enjoy the feeling. I'd slowed down enough so that I could enjoy the feeling of your presence, of each of you, and how it is I know each of you. And so for me, being here right now is a part of that joy of living. And in this session, we're going to talk about all the methods we can use to enhance our joy of living. And in the next session, we're going to look at how do we experience the bliss of living when we're suffering, when we're in pain. And it can even be felt in the worst moments of life, as people like Viktor Frankl and Bruno Bettelheim wrote about in such elegant ways. So, but today we're here to really brainstorm, think about, and wonder about how we can increase our individual joy of living. And so what I want to do is, I want to start by having us go into two groups, and for each person to talk, and I'll tell you the timing in a moment, but to each person to talk about what are the daily things you do that connect you to the joy of living. And there may be activities that you do twice a week that really connect you to the joy of living. And then there may be activities that you only do at weekends. And there may be things that are once a month. And then there may be things that are once a year. So for me, rather than, I'm not going to tell you the obvious ones, but so for example, one of the daily practices I do around the joy of living is my stretching practice. And it starts with some rolling around on the floor, which is just really, really pleasurable. So that would be an example of a daily practice. A several times a week practice would be that, what will I pick? Well, I'm going to the common near me, Tooting Common, and I'm going through particular trees and particular bits of wood that I have begun to know quite well. And then once a week, one of the things that I might do once a week is go dancing or do some activity out in nature away from here, but only a few hours away from here. Once a month, at least, my partner Sophie and I get away for the weekend to some place on national trails where we'll go and spend 2 days walking. And then once a year, I love to swim in the Aegean or the Mediterranean. And I used to ski. I haven't skied recently, but that is another way that really brings a strong sense of the joy of living. Actually, I'm going to give you a relationship one as well. Most Monday nights, I spend time with my godson, and the quality of that connection is really deep. Also with his mother, and of course, my partner, Sophie. I'll just mention that quite often, Sophie and I meditate next to each other. And that's really powerful, both from a meditation point of view, but also from a joy of living point of view. And there are many other things that I could talk about, but I really want to have you talk about daily activities that you do maybe once or twice a week, something that you do at the weekend, something that's once a month, and something that's once a year. You don't have to be precise about it. The purpose of this exercise is for you to share with other people what it is you do, so that they can learn. Maybe they'll steal one of the things that you're doing. They'll take on one of the things that you're doing. Let's take 30 minutes. So you've got 30 minutes starting now. Welcome back. Welcome back. Have you got any questions?
No, we did a bit of a debrief at the end, actually, which was interesting. I was sort of saying that since I've been part of this program, I'm much more, we were just comparing notes really about how more mindful or connected, less worrying about the future or the past, you know, connecting. So we did a little bit of that, but no, it was nice, and we all got ideas from each other. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's hear lots of brief descriptions of brief methods that you use. So what are some methods you use, Marina?
What, to stay very present?
Yes, or yeah, to enhance the way of thinking.
I'm doing just, you know, because I've done this stuff before, and then since I've consistently been on this course and listening to the meditations probably 3 or 4 times a week,
yes,
I'm much less worrying about things, so less internal dialogue, more aware of your self-awareness and just observing everything. And something we discussed in the group was, for some of us, you know, I really connect with nature more. And you know, someone was saying, Angela, I think it was, about, you know, walking, when you're walking around, just feeling your body, you know, being really in your body and not going over the past either too much.
So is that your main practice? Feeling your body and not going over the past too much?
And connecting more. Yeah, being more present generally in everything.
Connecting more to what?
To myself, to nature, to my puppy, to, you know, my friends and clients. I've always been good at doing that. So I get out of myself and really with them.
Yeah.
So that's but I think how my clients are benefiting coaching wise, I'm just much more grounded, and, you know, rather than thinking ahead, oh, well, I've got to fix that, or let's do that. You know, there's something's shifted a bit. Yes. So you still might do those interventions a bit, but it's sort of less so, yeah. The interventions can really help people, but it's more getting them in that place, isn't it? Them really connect. Because when you're working, I'm working a lot with a board directors that run the NHS in a certain county, and their workloads and everything is mad, you know. So just having an hour, it's a bit like when I come on here, just having an hour to just stop and connect.
Yes, that's really great. And the one thing I want to just draw out of that is, you know, not thinking so much about the past. It's so easy to think about something from the past and imagine it would have worked out well if all had been different. But you know, like relationships, you meet someone, you think they're wonderful, they're all just perfect. Then you have a relationship with them, and you discover all the shadow and all the difficult stuff about them. Same is true with events. What may have seemed a perfect moment, you never know how it will have worked out differently. So actually the habit of looking back to the past and saying, I wish it had been different, it's actually completely useless and a waste of time. I mean, and the reframe that can be used that really helps is to just say, I had that experience so that I may grow now. That experience is a part of my life growth process. It's about part of the process of helping me fulfill my potential in life. So you can say, sort of have a mantra, which is the good things help me fulfill my potential in life. And the challenges, disappointments, disasters, and failures help me fulfill my potential in life. So it's not quite mindfulness, but it's having sort of a positive reframe on all the experiences that we've had in life. But essentially looking back at the past and wishing it was different is a, you know, unless you're doing it as a learning activity, it's a complete waste of time. Unless you're saying, what happened yesterday didn't quite work, and so tomorrow when I meet with the people, I'll do it. That's a learning approach. But just thinking back to things in the past that you can't change, there's no use in that, no help in that at all. And therefore really catching ourselves and using mindfulness with that is really powerful. So thank you for that, Marina. What are the other methods? There may be lots of different methods. What's your method? Let's hear from other people. Louise.
I was saying, what I would say I would focus on mostly is less specifically joy, but being grateful.
Being grateful.
And that, yeah, just appreciating what's going on in my life, the small things. I mean, I've talked before about loving growing plants, etc., and that brings me joy. But it's also being grateful for the fact that I can do that.
Sorry, I missed that. I didn't quite hear that.
I've talked more about, you know, loving plants and growing things, yes, but it's also being grateful for being able to do that.
Yes.
You know, in even small things, when something goes well, a nice meal that I've cooked or had cooked for me, those sorts of things, whilst they're not the joyful practices that you were talking about in terms of meditation and things, they're still joy.
I would actually
there.
say they are joyful practices. I mean, I would say
Yeah.
gratitude is a joyful practice. And actually, I mean, you know, the research says that we'll all feel happier if we list every day, we list the things that we're grateful for. But also it can become quite spiritual, because when you really look at life and say, wow, I'm grateful for being alive. I'm grateful for the sky. I'm grateful for the air. I'm grateful for the kids walking on the street. I'm grateful for the trees, the swans. Once you start doing that, you become much more aware of sort of the miraculous nature of it all. And so that's joy inducing. At least that induces joy in me. So I think a regular practice of stopping and just being grateful, and listing all the things you're grateful for, is really a great practice. It's slightly different to the mindfulness practice, and therefore it's good to have more than just one practice. You know, it's good to have more than a single practice. There was one more thing I wanted to say about that, which was, you know, from the nature series that we were doing before, to actually talk directly to nature, rather than say, it's a beautiful day, say, oh day, you are beautiful. Oh tree, you are beautiful. Oh flower, you are, you know, beautiful. And not to talk about nature as an object, but to talk about nature as a character, as something that you're in relationship with. Angela, thank you, Louise.
When I started saying about what brings me joy, while listening also others or yourself, I was thinking, is it really the things that I do that brings me joy, or is the state that I create in which I do that brings me joy? And I work more state driven, I think, more than, or anyway, my focus is on that, and probably they are connected naturally, and it's together. And so what I really enjoy is that actually to connect to my body and feel my body inside out, and then maybe the sensation, the warmth and stuff. And when I feel like this, I just notice it's a form of gratitude, but I don't do it addressed towards something externally, but more connected to myself. And I was saying during the conversation, and this is how I connect to nature, because I am nature. I am part of my nature. My body is part of my nature. And this is like, for me, the connection. Also, maybe because I live in a town, so it's easier to have myself as part of nature than going and
we are
look.
nature. Yeah, we are nature. So yeah, and really, of course, connecting with the body is really a key thing. And there is so much to explore in our bodies. If you ever go to a class with an Alexander practitioner or a Feldenkrais practitioner, or there are all sorts of other practices, you know, body works, you just discover how possible it is to really sense different things happening within the body that most of us are not trained to connect to. So just the more we can connect into our bodies, the more, that's such a beautiful practice of connecting with nature. The other thing I want to mention is that, of course, you're absolutely right. It's not so much the activity that produces the joy, but the state of being. But of course, the activity can elicit the state of being. So as you said, it can be circular. You know, if I go into a beautiful landscape, it draws into, I slow down, I pay more attention, I get more present, I notice what's going on. And that state in me, I can apply it to the little flower that's growing out of the wall in my street. So the state is the internal state, the state of meditation, if you like, or the body-mind state, or the generative state, is the most important thing. Because if I can have a moment of looking into a baby's eyes and just feeling the presence and the wonder, I can have that moment looking in somebody else's eyes. You know, sometimes, I'm sure you've all had those moments, you just, something happens, you both laugh, and you look in each other's eyes, and just for an instance of a second, you can see life itself, you can see consciousness itself, you can see aliveness, those sacred moments. Of course, it's easy with the baby because you can stare at a baby. The baby's staring at you more than you're staring at the baby. So, you know, if you do that in the street with someone, they may freak out and call the police. You know, so you have to be a bit careful about staring at people. But once you've got it, you can see it in the baby, then you can bring that presence and curiosity, that state, to another person. So I think a part of the secret of all of this is that if there are activities that really generate this feeling in us, to help us have this state, that take us into the state, then we can then take the state and take that to other places. You know, I mean, I love traveling on the underground. I get really calm inside, and I don't stare at people, but I watch people, and I'm just so interested in, you know, these strange creatures that I spend my time with. You know, wow, what's this? And it's just really a beautiful thing. It's better than going to, for me, it's better than going to the zoo. I'm not sure that's the right way to say it, but, you know, it's sort of like to have that curiosity about, you know, the amazingness of each individual who is a sort of point of consciousness that's come back from since the Big Bang, the beginning of time. Wow, how did you get here? What's the journey that you and your ancestors have taken to get here? So, what else? What else?
So maybe I can tell a little, if I understood in the right way. We talked about what are you doing daily, what are you doing once a week, and normally I try to do walking every day 1 hour in the morning at first, but this is not the key to joy. I often think it is the key to joy, but then I realize there are some mornings when I walk through the wood along the riverside, and I come back and I realize I missed it. I wasn't in the wood. I wasn't at the riverside. I missed it. There was fear in my head. There were stories in my head. So then I do some little games of present work. This means when I realize I'm in the wood and there are so much sorrows, I look to a tree about 10 meters far from me on the way, and I start a countdown. I say to my brain, this tree, 17 seconds, 16, 15, 14, 3. In the last second, I touch the tree. But before I start the countdown, I ask my hands, how will this tree feel? So then I say 17, 16, 15, 14. And in the last second, maybe it's right. It was right. Maybe what I knew from the tree was right. Maybe not. But neither nor, I'm in the presence of this tree. And this is a little bit stronger than some sorrows. So this is a little trick, but it's not sure that it will happen. Another way, can I tell you one?
Keep going, yeah.
One other way to try is every night I go to bed, I have a little book and I write down what was the gift of this day to me. And I found out that as longer as I did it, the more I realized during the day, oh, this is one thing I will write down this evening. So I open a little up for the wonderful gifts I get from love.
Beautiful. Next week, we're going to talk about how we feel. Joy is not quite the right word, but the sort of luminous quality of being alive, even when we're suffering. That's the topic of next week. And some days we feel bad, but an immediate mindfulness technique is not, if you say, I should be feeling good, therefore this isn't working, that is going to just make it worse. So what you have to do is you actually have to be, it's rather like the sky. The sky is there, whether there is clouds, whether it's rain, whether there's thunder, whether there's lightning, the sky is always the same, whatever the weather condition. And so the mood that you're in is the weather condition, but awareness, consciousness is the sky. And so as you practice mindfulness and meditation, it's really, I think, really, really helpful to say that I'm looking at a beautiful, you start by saying, isn't this beautiful? This beautiful tree, this landscape, this garden, the sun, the weather's nice. I feel great. Of course, let's enjoy that. But also, let's notice the one who enjoys that. Or where is that enjoyment arriving? Where does the tree and the sky and the grass arrive in my nervous system? I think about it like that. It's almost like there's an inner field of consciousness. Sometimes I say, oh, let me try and find the nerve endings, where it goes through my eye, but where does it arrive in my brain? Or sometimes I just say, okay, I'm seeing, I'm hearing, I'm feeling. What's that is processing what I see? What is it that is processing what I hear? What is it that's processing what I feel? Where does this all arrive? And I like the metaphor of the mirror. The mirror reflects everything it sees, yet the mirror never changes. So that's one of the descriptions of awareness or consciousness. So then, particularly when there's suffering, it's really helpful to notice awareness itself, because you're not going to get a hit off, you're not going to get a positive feel-good hit of what's happening, what's happening. And we'll come to that next week. So there are a number of different methods. One is, actually, I could notice all the things that are beautiful, as well as the pain in my body. So you can spread your awareness. I can see, I can breathe, I can feel, my heart's beating, my legs are working, and I've got a strong emotional pain. So the emotional pain is only one part of your experience. We'll go through all these different methods next week. But you mentioned something that I'm just going to, I was reading this morning, so I shall see if I can't, it's always dangerous to try and find something spontaneous, but I was reading a book by somebody called Dujum Rinpoche. It's his mountain retreat instructions. And I may have to I'm not sure I can find it, but I can't see it, but he's basically just talking about what I've just been saying, which is that, you just pay attention. It doesn't matter whether you're having a good experience or a bad experience. Let go. To start with, it's a good beginner practice to say, let me do these things so I feel good. But some days we feel good, some days we don't feel good. If you can just do the awareness practice itself without judging whether the experience is pleasant or unpleasant, you're likely to feel better at the end of it. If you go into it saying, I want to feel better at the end of it, the expectation may block you from feeling better at the end of it. If you go into it just with, I want to be present with in awareness with what's going on, with curiosity, with compassion for myself, then it's likely to change. So you have to sort of take the expectation out. One of the nice ways of thinking about this is that and Rumi talks about this, about his poem, The Guest House. You have a guest house and all these different emotions come through you and you welcome them all. So it's like welcoming every message in your soul, both those of joy, bliss, but also anger, rage, sadness, grief, all of them, welcoming each one and saying, I'm sure you've got something to teach me. And then just that attitude of welcoming changes it. So it's it's to get really present without getting over-identified in a particular feeling, keeping the broad sense of awareness. We'll talk about all the different methods for dealing with suffering later. But I find that if I can be really present with the difficult emotions, they move much more quickly than if I push them away. If I go and watch YouTube, I may still have the emotion at the end. If I numb it, numbing isn't, I don't really like numbing. I have to numb sometimes. We all have to numb. We live in a world where it's so busy so frenetic that sometimes the way to get through something is to numb it. But it's not the method of choice. Some people spend their whole lives so numbed, they haven't really noticed their life. I would rather, have, if pain and feeling too much is the price for joy and ecstasy, I'm willing to pay that. The Dalai Lama, I don't know if he does it anymore, but I think his staff have made it more difficult. But for many years, he would give an interview to anyone who asked. Then I think they made it harder and harder. You had to be there at a certain time. You had to wait a number of weeks or whatever. But essentially, that principle stayed. I don't know if it's true today. But I heard someone say that when someone would tell him some terrible story, even though he was so busy and saw so many people, he would be touched and he would cry. I want to be that sort of person who's touched by the world. I can't be fully touched by the world because the way news works, there are so many terrible things brought to my attention. I just can't cry about all of them. It wouldn't be a healthy thing either. But I want to be touched by the world. I want to be touched by the poignancy of my own life and the struggle I've been through to be the man that I am. To be the person you are, to have that compassion. So that's the sort of key thing, that bringing your warm, tender heart and saying, I'm going to be mindful. I think it's important to bring the warm, tender heart, to bring your curiosity and say, I'm going to be mindful of this. And hold this in a space of loving presence. What I want to do is, actually, I want to do something, before I do a meditation, I want to just take us into a quick exercise. So I'm going to give you 15 minutes, 7 minutes per person in the pairs, 5 minutes per person in the group of 3. What stops you from having more joy in living? And what can you do about it? Each person. What stops you from having more joy in living or experiencing the joy of living? What stops you from experiencing the joy of living more? And what can you do about that? 15 minutes starting now. Welcome back, welcome back. What I want to do is to be really focused for a few minutes because I want to run my meditation shortly. But what I want to be focused on is just to get a little bit of input about what it is that you can do about the things that stop you from having more joy of living. So it's what's your strategy that you do that might be useful for other people. So just take a session, a short amount of time to share. What do you do, or what could you do to give yourself more time for the joy of living that is worth sharing because it might be supportive of other people? Gordon.
Yeah, just plan it in, a daily log. Sometimes I don't look at my daily log, but when I do, I'm planning the big things. So put all the things that we heard about there, like listing gratitudes and, being wary of dissociative behaviors and all these other things, and walks in the park and exercise and going fishing and enjoyment activities. Just that's what I do.
You plan it in.
When I do, it works, and when I don't, it doesn't work. So
great, thank you, Gordon. Who else? Angela.
I was sharing with Iris that lately, I already knew it, but I was not able to cope with it before. And lately, what I noticed is that I find myself very often when people propose something that for me is scary, or I connect with whatever fearful feeling, I find myself automatically saying no. So what I'm trying to do, either not to say no and to say yes, maybe, or why not? Or when I say no, effectively to reflect, okay, what do they say no? Usually what I notice is that I connect whatever worry and anxiety towards the outcome. So as I decided to be more yes-based in my life, usually what I do, I come back to the person and I reconnect and eventually say yes to whatever it was.
Right.
I started doing it really since 2 weeks, maybe, I noticed it and started doing it. So it's really new.
Great.
But
Thank you, Angela. I want to get a few more and then we're going to do the meditation. Kimberly.
Yes, kind of what came up when I was talking with Gordon was for me to be more aware of what I need, what I need in the moment, and then taking action, then making an effort to go and do something that will fulfill that need, whether it's going for a walk or calling up a friend or just, doing that instead of kind of not being as tuned into myself and just kind of numbing out or
No, it's brilliant. Really taking your needs seriously and acting on your needs. That's Taoism, that's Lao Tzu, it's go with the flow. What's your body telling you that you need right now? That's that's great. I did that today. I won't go into the detail. My body told me to do something different to what my head was saying, and I followed my body. It was much better. Louise.
Julian, just very quickly, on the note what your body needs, I need to go and get a cardigan because I'm freezing.
Great.
So would you excuse me for a minute?
Great. See you back in a minute. Well, what else? Anything else that would be worth sharing with other people that helps you? Janrico.
I have a beautiful dialogue with Marina, and for myself, I recognize that if I don't integrate these beautiful moments in the everyday life, I pass through and I forget it. To read, to meditate, to make sports, and then it's really it sounds quite good that everyone has the possibility to make just the whole day long meditation and something like this. But if you have to work and if you have to pay bills, something like this, you have to discipline yourself to integrate it in your business life also. And that's a huge thing, but it's also important to do that.
Absolutely.
But it sounds easier than it really is. That was our, I think, the resume of our dialogue.
Yeah, I mean, I will say something. Slow living. It's much easier to be mindful and to be grateful and to be curious and compassionate and interested when we're not rushing. And so, how can we, both with the work things and the non-work things? I mean, there's two parts. One is try and get rid of the stuff that's not important, to make time for the stuff that is important and put that in your calendar. And the second thing, of course, is that if you've got enough time, if you can be mindful enough, things like your work, things like the activities that you have to do will just be a lot more enjoyable. If I'm stressed because I'm trying to do too many things, it's not enjoyable. The same activities are enjoyable when I'm not rushing. So anything else? I'm going to say one more thing myself, which is having a very convincing argument for your brain. So many of you, whether it's the Protestant work ethic or the Western work ethic, or I don't know, the Catholic guilt or whatever it is, we often feel that we have to work really hard and we have to suffer and we have to, be strong and do the things that we need to do. And that old industrial age metaphor, which is that, the worker got paid for the number of parts they sent out of the factory. The more I do, the more I'll be paid. And actually to change that and say, for many of your professions, the better your emotional state, the better your relationships, the better your creativity, the better your thinking, the better your customers will think of you, the more you can charge, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That your emotional state is part of your key business work proposition, because your well-being has a double impact. It has the impact of feeling great at the time, And it also improves your relationships, improves your decision-making, improves your thinking, and is more likely, the research says, is more likely for you to be successful if you have well-being more often. So it's using those arguments to counter the industrial age, we all have to work very hard arguments. Life is about working hard, to say, actually, if I'm in a great state, I'll be more successful. And in fact, I think I've used this example with you before, but the chief executive, not the current one, the one before that, Andrew Whitty of GlaxoSmithKline, not only were there gyms in the offices, but he would put on his gym clothes and walk through the office at lunchtime and go to the gym because he wanted to go to the gym. But it was also a great symbolic activity, which was to everybody, don't spend all your time behind your desks looking at your computer. That is not a way to create an entrepreneurial, creative organization. He was demonstrating that. So I think we could all apply that to our lives. I could certainly apply it to mine when I get too busy. So let's do a meditation. So make yourselves comfortable. And there's been a lot of talking, both from me and also in the small groups. We've done 2 exercises. Feel into your body, particularly your right shoulder, and just pay attention to what's going on. Notice your body. Notice what the energy is like in you. Notice what you hear. Notice any images in your mind's eye. And any internal dialogue. Are you talking to yourself? What's the radio station saying now? And be curious. The thing with internal dialogue is it's very useful, but it's not your voice. It's only one voice inside you. It's only one part of who you are. You're much, much more than that. So just notice how you are. What are you integrating? What is settling down in you from the session today? Just be curious. You're a mystery that's unfolding. Breathe into your body. Breathe a little more. I can't quite remember the words of Mary Oliver, but it's something like, are you only half breathing and calling this a life? One of the ways that's really helpful in integrating new feelings, new ideas, new lessons is to imagine that you're breathing down, right down into your pelvis, all the way down, tracing the breath through the nose, the throat, feeling the expansion of the lungs, feeling how the solar plexus presses down into the gut as you breathe more. But even feeling that as you breathe in, there is energy. There seems to be energy movement that happens in your belly and your pelvis. And just be really curious about it. Be interested. I enjoy a yoga breathing practice where I breathe in through my nose. And in with this yoga tradition, there are these side energy channels. One on the left and one on the right, which the air goes down, all the way down to my pelvis. And then the air comes back up the middle. And just be interested in how it feels like not just the air, but the energy in your body that's associated with the air is moving in you as you breathe. How can you enjoy living, being alive more in the days and weeks that come? What do you have to start doing more of? Give yourself that enjoyment. What do you have to stop or do less of or control more carefully to give yourself space to enjoy being alive? And imagine during the days that come how you might enjoy the joy of living more. And I wonder what daily practice, meta practice you might have that will set you up for the whole day. What daily practice you might have that will set you up for the whole day to enjoy the joy of living more. Maybe it's a practice of just saying, today I will notice more. Today I will attend more. maybe you'll find it useful to take a short amount of time every day, such as 2 minutes, to just pause and say, I commit to noticing the joy of being alive more today. Or I invite life to reveal itself to me more fully today. What if life was a great invitation to dance, but you were a little shy? What if life was inviting you to experience more nourishment, more aliveness? Or what if your aliveness wanted to be better known by you? What if life wanted to be known more fully by you? What if you noticed, what if we noticed how much life is giving us every single second, more often? If we just noticed what is. You know, we spend so much time thinking about things. What if we spent more time noticing how much we're receiving in this moment, in every moment? What if we were being showered with blessings by life in every moment, and we started paying attention? What if we recognized that we are life? And that we're seeking to reveal ourselves to ourselves, or to reveal our bigger self to our smaller self. What if what we've always wanted is already here and has been all along. And when you're ready, stay deeply, if you want, stay deeply connected in yourself, and also connect with the group, the field. And just notice how deeply connected everybody is. A writer whose name I can't remember in this moment said, "We're here to help each other get through this, whatever this is." So it's really helpful to not only connect deeply within ourselves, but also to notice that we're in a field of people who are deeply connected. So open your eyes and just gently gaze at the group. We can use peripheral vision, which is when you focus on one point and just have a soft gaze. One of the beautiful things about the human nervous system is that even through a medium like Zoom, we can feel the field. The field we've created together. Each of us, the vibration or the state of each of us creates a field together. So I'm going to ask each person how they're feeling right now. And I'm going to start with you, Kimberly, and then when you've said how you're feeling, pass it on to someone else in the group.
How am I feeling? I'm feeling calm, serene, lighter. Shall I pass it on to the person next to me?
Who's that?
The person next to me is Gianrico. Gianrico.
Yeah, I feel refreshed and better.
Who are you passing it to, Gianrico?
To my neighbor Angela in my screen.
Great.
I feel touched. And I passed it on to Iris.
I feel peace and joy.
Mm.
And the pass to Mark.
I feel tired. Maggie.
Do you mean me?
Maggie.
I feel cushy,
So,
which cushy is a Welsh word for sort of huggy. I pass it on to Maria.
say that again, who?
I pass it on to Maria.
Marija. Okay.
Marija.
You're on mute, Marija.
Excuse me. I feel powerful. I'm so connected with everybody here. And I feel that through the spirit, I could get this connection. And it helps me. I'm happy and I enjoy. Thank you.
Who are you passing it to?
Oh, I need to see. Martin?
Martin.
Thank
Martin.
you. Thank you. I feel wonderful, in a wonderful way, connected with myself. And I look forward to do nothing. Is there anybody who hasn't got it now?
Yes.
Who?
Gordon.
So pass it to Gordon.
So I feel calm and resolved. And I pass it on to Marina.
I feel rested and I've got a very playful puppy, so I'm gonna have to go out and play in the garden. So, thank you, it was lovely.
Who are you going to pass it to?
Oh, I don't know who hasn't been. Who hasn't been?
Louise, Christina, and Mallory.
Valerie. Thank
Mallory. Mallory.
you. Thanks.
Oh, I feel calm and relaxed, really. Be chilled. And I'll pass it to Louise.
Thank you. I'm calm, a little bit tired, but also quite centered.
Who are you passing it to, Louise?
I can't remember who hadn't been.
Christina.
Christina, sorry.
Well, I feel very connected to all of you, and I feel grateful for my life, for the place I live, and for all people who are important for me. Thank you.
I feel happy and centered and connected to all of you and connected to life. It's beautiful. I've got my camera here. Behind you are this is large glass windows with the sky above. So great to have you all here today. Next time, we're going to look at how we enjoy being alive or awareness, even when we're suffering, even when we're in pain. And that will be the topic of next week. And then the week after will be an integration of the previous week. Great to have you here today. And I look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Lovely.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Au revoir.
Thank you, Julian. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.